Hello, are you Trace?
Yeah.
Hi, Detective Juarez.
Hello,
How are you?
Good.
Detectives are making their way inside 19-year-old Drake Bickett's apartment.
January
in
26th, 2018. Albuquerque, New Mexico. When Harry Gandert pushed open his sister's front door that Friday afternoon, he knew immediately that something had gone wrong. The house was silent, completely silent. The kind of quiet that settles over a place when life has been removed from it. Harry called out his sister's name. No response. He walked through the living room, past the kitchen where Marilyn's purse still rested on the counter. Her keys hung on their usual hook by the door. Her car sat in the driveway. Everything appeared to be in its proper place, yet nothing felt right. Then he heard it. A faint sound coming from the basement level. Whimpering. Scratching. The unmistakable sounds of animals in distress. Harry descended the stairs and found Marilyn's 3 small dogs locked inside a bathroom. They had been confined there for days. No food had been provided. No water. The animals were barely alive, their bodies weakened from dehydration and lack of nourishment. His hands shook as he reached for his phone and dialed 911. His sister was missing. Her dogs were locked up and neglected. Something had happened. Within 20 minutes, patrol officers from the Albuquerque Police Department arrived at the residence. They began a systematic search of the property. Marilyn's bedroom showed no signs of a struggle. Her bed was made. Her United States Postal Service uniform hung neatly on the back of her bedroom door, pressed and ready for her next shift. That detail struck the responding officers as significant. According to Harry, his sister had worked for the Postal Service for over 30 years. She had an impeccable attendance record. She never missed a day without notification. Her entire life revolved around structure, reliability, and service to others. When the officers reached the basement apartment where Marilyn's daughter Alyssa and adult grandson Drake resided, they found a stark contrast. The space was in disarray. Trash had accumulated in corners. The walls showed damage. Multiple holes had been punched through the drywall in various locations. But what caught the attention of the investigators was something far more concerning. There were signs of recent cleaning activity. Heavy cleaning activity. Certain areas of the carpet appeared darker than others, as if liquid had been scrubbed from the fibers. The walls around some of the damaged sections had been wiped down. Cleaning supplies sat out in the open, still damp from recent use. One officer knelt down to examine the carpet more closely. The pattern of discoloration suggested someone had worked hard to remove something from the floor. This wasn't normal house cleaning. This was the aftermath of an effort to eliminate evidence. Officer Sarah Barnhill, who had responded to the initial call, noticed something else about Alyssa. There were visible marks on her neck, fresh scratches that appeared recent. When Barnhill inquired about the injuries, Alyssa claimed the marks came from playing with the dogs. But those dogs were small breeds, weak and malnourished, barely able to stand. The explanation didn't match what Barnhill was seeing. Detectives from the Criminal Investigations Division arrived and began a more thorough examination. They used luminol to test for the presence of biological material in areas that appeared to have been cleaned. In the basement, multiple areas reacted to the chemical. The carpet, the walls near the damaged drywall, a section of the concrete floor in the garage. Someone had sustained injuries in that basement. Significant injuries. And then someone had worked very hard to make the evidence disappear. Investigators learned something crucial during their interviews. Marilyn had recently initiated legal proceedings against her daughter and grandson. She had filed for eviction. According to documentation obtained from the court, Marilyn had officially served eviction papers to Alyssa and Drake on January 16, 2018. The papers gave them until February 1st to vacate the basement apartment. The eviction papers had been served 10 days before Marilyn disappeared. 10 days of escalating tension. 10 days of knowing that the deadline was approaching. 10 days for resentment and anger to build. Drake's behavior during questioning was particularly odd. He sat on the couch in the basement, staring straight ahead, barely acknowledging the officer's presence. When they asked him directly about his grandmother, he offered minimal responses. No concern registered on his face. No worry about where she might be. He simply sat there, emotionless and detached. The forensic team collected samples of everything. If someone had attempted to clean up evidence of an incident, The chemicals and techniques they used would tell investigators exactly what they had been trying to hide. But 2 days before Harry would discover his sister missing, something else had occurred in the New Mexico desert. January 24, 2018, 6:47 in the morning. Marcus Chun, a real estate agent who jogged the desert trails near Rancho, noticed something unusual about 50 yards off his normal path. There appeared to be debris in a shallow ravine. A mattress, darkened and damaged by fire, lay partially visible among the sparse vegetation. As he got closer, something about the scene struck him as wrong. The mattress wasn't just burned, and there was a shape on top of it, a form that from a distance looked almost like a department store mannequin. Marcus slowed his pace. The shape was roughly human-sized. It had the contours of a body. Then he saw details that made his stomach turn. The positioning of what appeared to be limbs. And most concerning of all, a portion of the upper area where he could make out what looked like human dental structures. Marcus backed away quickly and dialed 911 with shaking hands. By 8 o'clock that morning, the entire area was cordoned off. Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputies stood in a perimeter while forensic investigators documented the scene. What they found wasn't just evidence of a crime. This was a disposal site. The individual had been doused in accelerant and set ablaze. But fire doesn't destroy evidence. It preserves it. The medical examiner determined the person had sustained multiple injuries before the fire was set. Sharp implement wounds, impact trauma to the head, restraint marks on the wrists and ankles. This individual had been bound and harmed, then transported while either still living or recently deceased. About 20 feet from the mattress, a deputy noticed something in the soft sand. A boot print. The impression was clear and well-defined. The tread pattern was distinctive. Tactical-style boots with an aggressive grip pattern. The print was photographed extensively and then cast using dental stone to create a permanent mold. This single footprint could potentially link a suspect to the scene. It took dental records to confirm what investigators already suspected. The remains discovered in the desert belonged to Marilyn Gandert, the 64-year-old postal worker, the beloved sister, the woman whose dogs had been locked up and left without care. Detectives who had been working Marilyn's disappearance were informed of the identification. Every suspicion they had harbored about what might have happened to her was now confirmed. Marilyn had been harmed in her own home, in the basement where her daughter and grandson lived. She had been restrained. Then, after she had passed, she had been transported to the desert and fire had been used in an attempt to conceal what happened. The cell phone records investigators had been waiting for finally arrived. On the night of January 23rd, both Alyssa's and Drake's phones had been active and moving. At 11:47 p.m., both phones were pinging towers near Marilyn's residence. But at 12:23 a.m., the phones connected to a tower 8 miles west of the residence. The direction was significant. West, toward the open desert, toward Rancho. At 1:14 a.m., the phones hit another tower located very near the intersection of 20th Street and Northern Boulevard, the same area where Marilyn would be discovered. The phones remained in that general vicinity for approximately 38 minutes. Then they began the return trip. By 2:41 a.m., both phones were back in the area of Marilyn's residence. This data was devastating to any claim of innocence. Alyssa and Drake hadn't been asleep in the basement as they had suggested. They had been in the desert, at the exact location where Marilyn was found, during the precise time frame when the disposal would have occurred. Investigators obtained a search warrant for the household vehicle, a Nissan Pathfinder. Forensic testing revealed trace amounts of biological material. The DNA profile matched Marilyn. Based on the location of the evidence found in the cargo area, her remains had been transported in that vehicle. Among Drake's possessions, investigators found a pair of tactical boots. A forensic shoe print expert compared Drake's boots to the cast made from the print found in the desert. The conclusion was definitive. Drake's boot had made that print. He had been standing in the desert sand, near the location where his grandmother had been left. On February 2, 2018, arrest warrants were issued. Alyssa and Drake Bickett were taken into custody and charged with the incident, along with kidnapping and tampering with evidence. But the case gained additional strength when investigators found Annie Rael. Annie lived at a rental property where Alyssa and Drake had been staying. She wasn't just a friend. She was a witness. Annie described being asked to help clean up after what Alyssa called an accident at her mother's house. When Annie arrived at Marilyn's basement, she noticed areas of the carpet that appeared to have a reddish tinge despite heavy cleaning. She saw holes in the walls that had been deliberately cut out with clean edges. She witnessed both Alyssa and Drake acting paranoid and anxious. According to Annie, Alyssa had talked about her frustration with her mother for weeks before Marilyn went missing. Drake had shown her his tactical boots the day after, making comments that suggested he knew they were important. Annie had even helped clean the basement carpet, though she claimed she didn't fully understand what had happened at the time. When detectives offered Annie a deal in exchange for her testimony, she took it. Her detailed account of the cleanup, the conversations, and the behavior of both defendants would prove invaluable to the prosecution. The interrogations of Alyssa and Drake revealed starkly different personalities. Detective Raymond Torres showed Alyssa photographs of the evidence, the desert location, the boot print, the cell phone data map. Her breathing became shallower with each photograph. Her fingers drummed against her arms in a rapid, anxious pattern. The reality of the evidence was sinking in. Drake presented a completely different challenge. Detective Sarah Chun sat across from the 23-year-old, studying his demeanor. Since the interview had begun, he had barely spoken. Chun showed him the same photographs. Drake glanced at them without visible reaction and returned his gaze to the wall. When Chun asked him directly about the night of January 23rd, Drake finally spoke. His voice was monotone, emotionless. He claimed he couldn't remember clearly. It was all unclear. Chun pressed. How could he not remember? The evidence showed he had been there. Drake shrugged. Maybe. He guessed so. He didn't really know. It was one of the most unusual interviews Chun had ever conducted. Drake's complete absence of emotion, his seeming indifference to the severity of what he was facing, was deeply concerning. Court-appointed psychologists conducted thorough evaluations of both suspects. Alyssa was found competent to stand trial, though she showed patterns of dependency and an external locus of control. She tended to blame circumstances rather than taking responsibility for her actions. Drake's evaluation was more concerning. He exhibited significant emotional limitation. His responses were consistently flat. Testing revealed elevated scores on measures associated with callousness and lack of empathy. He showed no ability to put himself in his grandmother's position or to feel concern for what she had gone through. As the case moved through the pretrial phase, prosecutors recognized they had overwhelming evidence. The physical proof was undeniable. The digital trail was irrefutable. Both defense attorneys recognized that taking this case to trial carried significant risk. Plea offers were extended. Alyssa was offered a deal requiring her to plead guilty to second-degree charges, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence in exchange for a sentence of 30 years. Drake received a similar offer with a recommended sentence of 26 years. After weeks of deliberation, both accepted the plea deals. The allocation hearing took place on October 15, 2018. The courtroom was packed. Family members of Marilyn filled the front rows. Postal Service colleagues attended in their uniforms, a silent show of support. Judge Catherine Morrison asked Alyssa directly about the facts of the case. On January 23, 2018, a confrontation had occurred at the residence. Physical force had been used against Marilyn. She had sustained fatal injuries. Following her passing, her remains had been moved to a vehicle and transported to the desert. Accelerant had been poured over the remains and mattress. Fire had been used to destroy evidence. The defendants had then returned home and engaged in heavy cleanup. Is this account substantially accurate? The prosecutor asked. There was a long pause. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, Alyssa responded, yes. When Drake's behavior in prison proved surprisingly compliant. He followed rules without argument. But this compliance seemed to come from indifference rather than genuine rehabilitation. Prison psychologists found no significant change in his emotional capacity or his ability to feel remorse. Back in Albuquerque, the postal facility where Marilyn had worked established a small memorial in her honor. A plaque was mounted in the employee break room, commemorating her 30 years of service and dedication. Her route was eventually assigned to another carrier, but longtime residents remembered her friendly greetings and reliability. Harry Gandert eventually sold Marilyn's house. Walking through that basement where the incident had occurred was too difficult. Knowing what had happened there made it impossible for him to view the space as anything other than where his sister's life had ended. The case became a teaching example in law enforcement training programs. The combination of physical evidence, digital evidence, and witness testimony demonstrated how modern investigations integrate multiple types of proof. The boot print analysis, the cell tower tracking, and the forensic examination of the clean basement all became examples used in training scenarios. For the prosecutors and detectives who had worked the case, it represented successful justice, but also highlighted the emotional toll of working on family harm cases. The fundamental betrayal of trust involved, the way the incident violated the most basic bonds that should exist between people, made it particularly difficult to process. Years after the sentencing, those directly affected continued to process the impact. Harry never fully recovered from the loss of his sister. He struggled with questions about whether he could have prevented it, though rationally he knew he bore no responsibility for the choices Alyssa and Drake had made. The case raised broader questions about family harm and warning signs. The financial dependence, the escalating property damage, the tension around the eviction. All of these were indicators of a potentially dangerous situation. But recognizing warning signs and preventing harm are two different things. Mental health professionals who reviewed the case noted the particular danger posed by individuals who lack empathy and show antisocial traits. Drake's psychological profile suggested deep-seated issues that might not be amenable to conventional rehabilitation. The eviction process itself came under some scrutiny. But property law experts noted that homeowners must have the ability to evict occupants, even family members. Marilyn had followed the proper legal procedures. She had given notice. She had used the court system as designed. The fact that this led to her death wasn't a failure of the process, but a reflection of the perpetrator's complete disregard for human life. The memorial at the post office became a quiet place of reflection. The plaque with Marilyn's name and years of service served as a reminder of dedication, service, and the tragic way her life had ended. Some of her longtime customers left flowers when they heard what had happened, small gestures of respect from people whose lives she had affected. The Postal Service honored Marilyn's memory by establishing a small scholarship fund for children of postal workers in New Mexico. It was a modest tribute, but it carried forward her legacy of service in a meaningful way. The desert location where Marilyn had been found gradually returned to its natural state. Over time, the vegetation grew back. The sand shifted. Nature reclaimed the space. But for those who knew the location's significance, it remained a marked place. The case of Marilyn Gandert represented multiple failures. A failure of family bonds. A failure of empathy. A failure of basic human decency. But it also represented the success of the justice system in identifying, investigating, and prosecuting those responsible. The forensic science had worked. The legal system had functioned. The guilty had been held accountable. Justice had been achieved, even if it couldn't restore what had been lost. Years after the sentencing, legal professionals and law enforcement personnel still referred to the Gandert case when discussing family harm investigations. But beyond its value as a teaching case, the story remained fundamentally a human tragedy. A woman who had spent 30 years serving her community, who had worked hard to build a stable life, who had tried to help family members despite their problems, had been repaid in the worst way imaginable. The fact that those responsible were her own daughter and grandson made the betrayal especially profound. No legal outcome could truly balance what happened. Marilyn was gone. Her years of service had been cut short. Her life had ended far too soon. For Harry and the other family members, the passage of time brought some measure of healing, but never complete closure. They found ways to honor Marilyn's memory. They spoke about her service, her dedication, her kindness. They worked to ensure that she was remembered for the life she lived, not just the way she died. The memorial, the scholarship fund, the memories shared by co-workers and customers, all of these kept Marilyn's legacy alive. As years continued to pass, Alyssa and Drake remained in prison, serving their sentences. The freedom they had tried to preserve through their actions had been permanently taken from them. The evidence that had led to their convictions remained in storage, part of the permanent record of the case. And somewhere in the desert west of Albuquerque, The land bore silent witness to what had occurred there on that January night in 2018. The landscape that had briefly concealed what happened, but ultimately revealed it. The case closed with sentences handed down and justice served in the legal sense. But the impact of what happened continued to ripple outward, affecting everyone who had known her, everyone who had worked the case, and everyone who learned of what had occurred. It stood as a reminder of the darkness that can exist within families, the devastating consequences of harm, and the importance of the justice system's role in holding perpetrators accountable. And it honored the memory of a woman who had dedicated her life to service, who had shown up faithfully for 30 years, and who deserved to be remembered for that dedication rather than for how her family betrayed her. Justice had been achieved. The guilty were in prison. The truth had been established and documented. But the loss remained, permanent and irreversible, a tragedy that would echo through the years for all those who had known and valued Marilyn Gandert. What drives someone to harm the person who raised them? What makes a grandson capable of such cold calculation? These are questions that haunt Harry Gandert still. In the quiet moments, he thinks about his sister's final hours. The fear she must have felt. The betrayal of realizing what was happening. The dogs that survived that bathroom became a lasting reminder. Harry took them in after Marilyn's death. They lived out their remaining years in his care, never quite recovering from what they had witnessed. Animals sense things. They know when something wrong has occurred in their environment. Those 3 small dogs had been the first witnesses to Marilyn's absence. In the years since, Harry has spoken at victim advocacy events. He tells Marilyn's story not for attention, but to help others recognize the signs of escalating family conflict. The property damage, the financial dependence, the legal proceedings that create desperation. All of these factors were present before Marilyn's life ended. He emphasizes one point repeatedly. Marilyn had every right to reclaim her home. She had every right to set boundaries with adult children who were damaging her property and refusing to contribute. She shouldn't have died for exercising those rights. The case files remain in the Bernalillo County archives. Boxes of evidence, photographs of the scene, DNA reports, cell tower records, interview transcripts, all of it meticulously cataloged and preserved. Future investigators studying cold cases or family harm incidents can access this material to understand how modern forensic techniques solve crimes. The boot print cast sits in the evidence locker, a permanent reminder that physical evidence can survive disposal attempts. The cell phone data printouts demonstrate how digital footprints create undeniable timelines. The DNA analysis reports show how biological evidence persists even after aggressive cleaning. These aren't just abstract forensic concepts. They're the pieces that brought justice for Marilyn Gandert. They're the reason Alyssa and Drake Bickett are serving decades in prison instead of walking free. Detective Torres retired from the Albuquerque Police Department in 2023. Before he left, he gave a final interview about the cases that had shaped his career. The Gandert investigation was among those he mentioned, not because of its complexity, but because of its clarity. Sometimes the evidence is overwhelming, Torres said. The cell phones told us where they went. The DNA told us what happened. The boot print placed them at the scene. It was methodical police work, but it was also about following the digital and physical trail that the suspects left behind. Detective Chin still works homicides. She uses the Drake Bickett interrogation tape in training sessions for junior detectives. It serves as an example of how suspects with certain psychological profiles respond to questioning. The flat effect, the minimal engagement, the seeming indifference to consequences. You won't always get a confession, she tells trainees. Sometimes you won't get any emotional response at all. That's when you rely on the evidence to tell the story. Dr. Patricia Moreno, the forensic pathologist who examined Marilyn's remains, incorporated the case into her lectures at the University of New Mexico Medical School. The examination demonstrated how fire affects human tissue, what evidence survives high temperatures, and how dental records provide identification when other methods fail. For her students, the Gandert case represents real-world application of techniques they're learning. It's not theoretical. It's not abstract. It's a 64-year-old woman who deserved better than what happened to her. The scholarship fund established in Marilyn's name has helped 6 children of postal workers attend college. Small amounts, but meaningful to the families who receive them. Each scholarship check includes a card that tells Marilyn's story, not the story of how she died, but the story of how she lived. 30 years of service, never missing a shift, taking pride in her work. Those are the things worth remembering. In prison, Alyssa Bickett will be eligible for her first parole hearing in 2039. She will be in her early 60s. The parole board will review her institutional record, her participation in programs, and any evidence of genuine rehabilitation. They will also review the crime itself, the planning, the execution, the cleanup, the lies told to investigators. The decision will not be easy, but that's years away. Drake Bickett's first parole hearing will come in 2036. He will be in his early 40s. The parole board will face an even more difficult assessment. How do you measure rehabilitation in someone who showed no empathy to begin with? How do you gauge remorse in someone whose emotional range appears fundamentally limited? Prison psychologists continue to evaluate him. Year after year, the reports remain consistent. Compliant behavior. No disciplinary issues. But also no evidence of internal change. No development of conscience. No emergence of genuine feeling for what he did to his grandmother. These are questions the parole board will have to answer when the time comes. For now, both remain incarcerated. The decades stretch ahead of them. Years of routine. Years of confinement. Years of facing what they did, whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. And in Albuquerque, in the neighborhoods Marilyn once served, life continues. The postal carriers who knew her have mostly retired. New carriers work the routes. But occasionally, an older resident will mention the woman who used to deliver their mail. The one who always smiled. The one who took pride in her work. The one who died because she tried to set boundaries with family members who couldn't accept them. That's the story of Marilyn Gandert. Not just how she died, but who she was. A postal worker. A sister. A woman who showed up every day for 30 years. And a victim of the two people who should have protected her most.
With his girlfriend Nikki at a hotel, an address officers obtained from Alyssa during the welfare check. From past encounters, officers know Drake suffers from schizophrenia and has a history with police, but they don't suspect him to be involved. But that won't be the case for long, because when detectives arrive at this apartment, they'll quickly realize Drake knows far more than they do. But before we get to that, most days are long, stressful, and by the time dinner comes around, the last thing I want to do is figure out what to make. That's why I've been using HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, everything shows up already planned and ready to go, so I can actually enjoy making dinner instead of stressing about grocery shopping or missing ingredients. And it's not just convenient. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit, with over 100 recipes to choose from every week. You get to pick from all kinds of cuisines, plus over 35 high-protein meals each week, including new Mediterranean and GLP-1 friendly options. I personally love the new high-protein Mediterranean chicken bowl with couscous and yogurt sauce. On top of that, HelloFresh uses sustainably sourced seafood and 100% antibiotic and hormone-free chicken, so you're eating clean. And now they're offering 3 times the seafood options at no extra cost. If you want to make eating at home more enjoyable and healthier, HelloFresh makes that a lot easier. I use it, and you should too. Go to HelloFresh.com/DrInsanity10FM to get 10 free meals and a free zwilling knife, a $144.99 value on your 3rd box. Offer valid while supplies last. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. With that said, let's get back to the investigation, where detectives are about to speak with Marilyn's grandson and quietly pick up on something he doesn't want them to know.
So this is Detective Jody Gutterman.
Hello, nice to meet you,
Hi,
Jody.
you too. So what is your name?
Drake Bickett.
Drake Bickett.
Yes.
When did you, so you moved out about a week ago?
Yeah, I moved out about him.
Who did you live with?
I lived with my mother.
So why were you guys moving out?
We were
What's the
moving out
situation?
Because my grandmother was kicking us out. Well, that's what my mother told me.
How did that make your mom feel?
Oh, she was pretty upset.
Yeah.
She was really upset.
Okay. What'd she tell you?
She was just like, I don't know where I'm gonna stay and stuff like that.
Your grandma, we found her, but she's dead.
Where at?
Well, we believe that it's suspicious. Okay, we think someone killed her,
When?
and I'm really sorry.
Okay. How does that make you feel? That makes me feel sad. So she's murdered? Or like, she's just dead?
No, someone murdered her.
Like, why?
Well, that's what we want to know.
Because I had just gotten over depression over my dad dying.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Mom's story isn't matching up
No.
with your story or Nikki's story, and with
Totally off.
yeah.
Okay, is she okay?
Your mom? Yeah, she's fine. She's being taken care of.
Drake's reaction is hard to miss, and investigators can sense something is off. His pupils are dilated, leading them to suspect he's on drugs. But his reaction is hardly convincing, and it's clear there's something he's hiding. Despite their growing suspicions, there's no solid evidence to prove Drake is involved, so detectives leave the apartment for now. Later that night, confirmation comes through. The search warrant has been approved. Police immediately rush back to the rental property, hoping Alyssa hasn't had enough time to destroy crucial evidence. But this time, they'll find her waiting for them, and she's far less cooperative than before.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. You mind if I step out for me?
That's fine.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the house with
No.
you? All right. Step out for me.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the situation. Okay. First off, we're investigating the disappearance. I believe it's your mom,
It's my mother-in-law.
your mother-in-law. Okay. And we actually have to secure the house.
Okay, I'm just trying to get all my stuff out.
Okay.
Like,
All right. So unfortunately, I can't let you go back inside.
I have things in there.
Unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah, I need my phone to let them know. Like,
Okay. Unfortunately, like I said,
you're not gonna let me get it?
I can't.
No, that is not right.
Well.
I have no.
So
no.
listen, why don't
No.
can you talk to me first, and then
Yes,
maybe we can.
but
All right.
that's not fair.
Okay. Would you be more comfortable to do this in my car, where it's
No.
warm? You good?
I mean, my jacket, I could get it. I'm not.
Okay. How many people live here with you?
It was me, Nikki, Annie, and Drake. Drake is my son. And
Now,
I was
you
his
mentioned
cousin.
that she was mad at who?
She was mad at Annie. She's mad at all of us.
Well-
She was mad at Annie because she didn't like her being here because she says she didn't pay rent. Marilyn was yelling at us, and then Marilyn said, "I ought to just die because, nobody wants me anyway." Like,
Okay.
I mean, she blamed me for my husband dying. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
How'd
she-
that make you feel?
it makes me feel like shit. Like, it makes me sad.
Right. That
Yeah.
pissed me off.
Well, I wasn't really. I mean, I'm mad at her like for that. I mean, but
Right.
well, I mean, it makes me sad. I'm not going to do anything. I don't care.
Right.
I just,
Right.
I know, but
It
I
would
know
irrit-
that's
it
what
would
you
irrit-
guys are trying to get at.
No,
and I didn't do anything.
No, I'm not
So-
saying that. I'm saying it would irritate me too that she let you guys live here and then just drop
Yeah,
the ball, say, "Hey, I want you to pay
exactly.
freaking rent."
Yeah,
Like, hey,
but
where's the
well,
discussion?
yeah.
Do you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No, I don't.
Okay.
As suspected, Alyssa's reaction confirms what detectives have been theorizing. The real reason Marilyn evicted Alyssa was tied to her husband Ryan's untimely death. Alyssa herself just admitted that Marilyn had been blaming her for it, which sparked multiple heated arguments between them. But despite her growing anger, Alyssa still has no idea that her mother-in-law has been found brutally murdered. And even though detectives have shown up with a search warrant, she strangely doesn't ask them any questions about Marilyn's whereabouts. Instead, she seems far more focused on retrieving certain items from the house, things she knows, when discovered, will ruin her life and the lives of 2 others forever.
So she says.
This is the Albuquerque Police Department. Make your presence known. Make your presence known now.
For the moment, the house appears meticulously clean, with no obvious signs that Marilyn was ever there. Yet, officers find clothes and a purse that appear to belong to her. As the search continues, a vehicle pulls up by the side of the road. It's Alyssa's roommate, Annie. When an officer approaches to speak with her, it quickly becomes clear she knows something terrible has happened, but has no intention of sharing it with them.
How you doing? Hey, sorry to flash this in your eyes.
What's happening right now?
Okay, is there anybody else in the car? I mean,
No.
so would you mind speaking with us?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I know you probably
tired,
like what?
hungry.
You're probably trying to figure out what's going on, right?
Well, I kind of know a little bit.
What do you know? Tell me what you know.
I know that her mother-in-law that they rent from, she's missing. So I mean, we talk.
So that's exactly what we're here for.
Right.
We're trying to figure out, where she's at, because we deal with missing persons a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they have dementia or whatever. They'll leave for a couple of days and then come back.
Yeah.
But it's cold and we want to try to find her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do know that she has blamed me for them not paying rent, and I mean she's came at me, but we have talked very well before also. That's what I know about her. She's talked with me good, and she's attacked me like viciously and here. So
When you say attacked viciously, what?
like she was like screaming, and I'm like, I'm not trying to disrespect you. Like we're moving out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Alyssa's being attacked right now by this is crazy. Like this is nuts.
Well, unfortunately, we got to do a search warrant in the house.
Of course, yeah. She's listening to you. By all means, I will cooperate with you.
It seems like Annie is more cordial than Alyssa, but still clearly annoyed by the heavy presence of police. Ironically, this officer is unknowingly standing next to the very person who will end up solving Marilyn's murder. For now, though, police inside the house continue the search, and that's when one officer spots something. A tiny speck of blood on the wall and carpet gives police reason to suspect that Marilyn may have been murdered inside this house. Officers move quickly to secure the scene and send the evidence to the lab for DNA analysis, and prepare to inform Alyssa that her mother-in-law is dead, and that she's the prime suspect in her murder.
Your story doesn't match.
That's trying to make sure they're not
that's
okay.
going on. This officer's going to transport you there. You're going to meet with another detective, and we're going to sit down and have a chat, okay?
After Alyssa is arrested, her roommate Annie is also taken into custody after officers searched her car and discovered bloodstains inside, raising serious concerns about her involvement. At the same time, officers rush to the hotel where Drake is staying, and he's arrested on suspicion of being an accessory to murder. With all 3 suspects brought into the station, they are immediately separated as the detective prepares to interview each one. The strategy is simple: find inconsistencies in their stories and provoke a confession from at least one of them. Because Alyssa is the prime suspect, detectives decide to start with her. She's the one they believe killed Marilyn, and they're quietly suspecting her involvement in her husband's death as well. So when detectives sit down with Alyssa, they think they're on the verge of capturing a potential double murderer.
Do you know why you're here today? They told me because Marilyn died. I didn't know she died.
Okay, so it is true that Marilyn is deceased. Okay, how do you know Marilyn?
She's my mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. Okay.
I don't know how to say it. It was my husband, but he passed away. It was his mom.
So am I correct by saying that eventually you guys were evicted?
Yes, we were.
Okay. How did that come about?
Because we weren't paying. I'm confused. I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to even be here.
How come you're so upset right now?
Because she's gone and I didn't know this. You know?
And I'm sorry.
It's like, and then I'm here being accused of I don't even know what.
Some evidence has come to light that isn't faring very positively in your favor. Okay, so that's why I wanted you to come in and speak to us and give us your side of the story, because this is probably going to be one of your only opportunities to do that. Would there be any reason that we will find Marilyn's blood in Annie's room?
I don't know. No, there would be no reason. I don't know. Marilyn is taking things off the walls. So for me, I'm like, Marilyn, please stop. So I don't know.
Is there going to be any reason if we pull that carpet up in that house, that there's going to be any of Marilyn's blood on the carpet underneath? Now keep in mind, even if there's blood on the carpet and you use the carpet cleaner to clean it, that blood is still going to be there. It's going to seep through the carpet.
I know. I understand that.
That should just be a yes or no answer. That's not an
No, there shouldn't be any.
Okay, well there is.
Okay.
So you're the renter of the home.
Okay.
You were the last person in the home. Doesn't that seem a little suspicious to you?
Well, I don't know. I haven't
And now
done
she's
anything.
missing
Well,
and
I haven't
deceased?
done anything. I don't know of anybody doing anything, so we haven't done anything to her.
Who cleaned up the blood in the hallway? You guys didn't do a very good job on the walls because there's still blood spattered on the walls.
Okay.
Very small, but you didn't do a very good job because we were able to locate it.
I don't know. I'm not talking anymore. So, you said I have that right.
You do have that.
So I will get an attorney.
Clearly, Alyssa is shaken by the accusations and abruptly refuses to say anything more. In reality, this is the smartest move she can make, especially since detectives are already armed with stacks of evidence and a growing list of contradictions. Contradictions like how she initially claimed to have seen Marilyn on Saturday morning, but that would have been impossible as Marilyn's body was found Friday night. On top of that, Alyssa has no explanation for the bloodstains found inside the house. But even though Alyssa shut down the interview and asked for a lawyer, investigators still believe they have their killer. But that won't be the case for long, as they move on to speak with the other two remaining suspects. When investigators sit down with Alyssa's son Drake, they expect the same denials, but Drake is about to do the complete opposite, and he has a very unusual twist in store for everyone.
So just to let you know, I'm not here on the warrant.
Okay.
Okay. I'm here on the situation that happened with your grandma.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what I want to talk to you about.
Okay. How she's missing?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know what's going on with that other warrant of yours. I know I had heard that you'd failed to appear in court, so they issued you a warrant. And I don't know what that warrant was for. Okay. So I want to talk to you about your grandma.
Okay.
About Marilyn. Okay. But I wrote a warrant for you for the homicide of your grandma. So I'm actually charging you with homicide of your grandma.
Okay.
Okay. I've already had your mom, your mom's arrested.
Yeah.
And Annie is arrested.
Okay.
Okay. So I have enough probable cause to believe that you were involved in the homicide of your grandma.
How so? Oh yeah, you're the detective.
I am the detective. You remember me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at my house, I'm gonna tell you the honesty.
Okay.
My grandmother said, I'm too old.
Mm-hmm.
Will you please kill me? Multiple times, drunk and sober.
Okay.
That is honestly.
So back in January.
So I was just respect, because I can understand. I don't know if you guys can understand, but I expect you guys to be able to understand. If an old woman is old and having to work for her children, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'll do what she wants,
Undoubtedly, this statement from Drake catches the detective off guard. Not only does he outright confess to the murder of his own grandmother, but he also gives the most bizarre reason imaginable. Despite finally getting a confession, the detective isn't convinced. It seems like Drake is just trying to take the full blame and protect his mother. The story he's offering is so outlandish that the detective decides to give him another chance.
So you're saying that at some point your grandma asked you to kill her?
Like, she was like, yeah, I get real tired at night, and like, I'm like, I want to die, you know?
So did you do that for her?
Yeah, like.
When did you do that?
In my house, like, that's what she wanted, and obviously, like, I'm gonna cover it up or whatever, and I want to get caught.
That must have been really hard.
Yeah. I was there, and then she would be like depressed, you know?
Right.
And she was just getting old, and every day she would work, and she
What'd your grandma do?
She would pay for my stuff, and like, she for certain said that. I know she said that.
That she asked you to kill her?
Yeah.
Do you remember how?
Would I have to tell somebody before I do so, or?
Well, here's.
Would I respect her decision as a tired 65-year-old lady right after her son passing away, having a grandson with a different family? Is she truly better off?
Did you think she was?
To die. It looked like she was. She said she was.
Okay.
So I
did. Understand.
I passed her away. You know what I'm saying? Like.
So how did you do it?
That's it. Like, that's all the information without a lawyer or a public defender I'd like to share.
Okay. So you don't want to talk anymore after that? Okay.
That is what she had said. Like, that is all I know. That is what she had said.
Okay.
With no hint of hesitation, Drake doubles down on his story, claiming his grandmother wanted to die and he simply fulfilled her wish. And with an attorney requested, the detective has no choice but to accept his bizarre confession. If Drake truly killed his own grandmother and covered it up, that would ensure his mother Alyssa walks free. Even if detectives suspect her involvement in not one, but 2 murders, they have no hard proof against her. With the risk of letting a potential double homicide suspect walk free, detectives know they have one final chance to get the truth. There's still one more suspect in custody, Alyssa's roommate, Annie. Once detectives move on to speak with her, they know her statement could either confirm their suspicions or reveal they've been chasing the wrong suspect all along.
So basically, I'm pretty much just going to turn this over to you. I'm going to allow you to talk, tell me what you know, what occurred with Marilyn Gandert.
We all were in Alyssa's room getting high, and Marilyn was outside.
When you say we all, who are you referring to?
Me, Drake, and Alyssa.
Okay, so you guys are in Alyssa's bedroom getting high. What are you getting high on?
Meth.
Meth, okay.
Alyssa, she had brought it up before about killing Marilyn. I thought she was joking. And then I was playing music, walking around the room. I opened the door and I she just told me when she nods, because she would pretend that she was the Don, like the Godfather. She just told me when I nod, get her. Marilyn was coming in. I turned around and Alyssa looked at me and nodded again. I started walking quickly behind them and I got Marilyn in from behind and took her down. And at that point I had gotten off of Marilyn because I had her pinned down and Drake got on top of her. I think I yelled at Alyssa to get something to cover her mouth. She brought some wrap that she was using to pack, and she gave that thing to Drake, and Drake started hitting her. I think we all took turns after that doing that, started stabbing her, and I seen him going at it a bunch of times, and I grabbed the knife from him. He had already cut her throat. I prayed, and then Drake asked me to pray for him.
In an unexpected stroke of luck, Annie gives detectives exactly what they hoped for, a full confession of what truly happened to Marilyn. With this breakthrough, all 3 suspects are charged with open counts of homicide, giving police time to investigate further before determining the degree of murder. During this time, detectives receive DNA evidence from bloodstains collected at the rental house. The DNA matches Marilyn's, providing the final missing piece to solve this case. Investigators conclude that Marilyn's death was a coordinated, premeditated murder carried out by Alyssa, her son Drake, and roommate Annie. They determined that Marilyn was beaten to the ground by Annie before Alyssa struck her in the head with a small club. Then she was stabbed nearly a dozen times in the neck by her own grandson Drake. The killer trio then transported her body to a remote location in Rancho, where they set her body on fire, hoping to destroy any evidence. Investigators also revisit Ryan Bickett's case, Marilyn's son and Alyssa's husband. However, despite their suspicions, no new evidence suggests foul play, and the conclusion remains the same. Ryan took his own life. In 2019, a year after Marilyn's death, the trio accepts plea deals to avoid trial. Annie Rael pleads guilty to second-degree murder, receiving a 12-year sentence in exchange for her testimony. Alyssa Bickett pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to 30 years in prison, while her son, Drake, pleads guilty to second-degree murder and receives 26 years in New Mexico's Department of Corrections.